Rivals Radio.
Okay, let's unpack this. You've handed us a stack of sources, and we're going to take a deep dive into what feels like a backstage past look at the college league world right as year 3 is about to kick off.
That's right. And the core of what we're digging into today seems to come from these excerpts labeled Rivals Radio, specifically a college league year 3 conference look ahead. Looks like it's straight from the college league office itself.
Right, the source material. And our mission, it seems pretty clear. Dive into this, pull out the important nuggets, understand the conference landscapes, the key teams, all those emerging narratives. We want to get you informed quickly, basically using these reports as our guide.
Exactly. And this look ahead, it gives us really crucial context. It points out this is year 3, and maybe more importantly, it's the second season since that significant relegation shakeup after year 1.
The shakeup. Yeah, the report makes it really clear teams are locked into their current conferences now for 5 full seasons.
That's a long time.
Yeah, no quick escape, right? You have to build where you land.
Which just fundamentally changes the whole strategic outlook, doesn't it, for every single team. And the Rivals Radio report itself, it walks us through conference by conference, team by team, highlights key situations, players.
So that's our roadmap then.
That's our roadmap for this deep dive. The year 3 landscape laid out for us.
Perfect. Let's jump right into the conference breakdown presented in this look ahead. Okay, first up, the ACC. The teams listed here are Clemson, Louisville, Notre Dame, Florida State, Miami, Pittsburgh, Virginia Tech, Virginia, NC State, Syracuse, Coastal Carolina, Duke, Georgia Tech, and North Carolina. Quite a lineup.
Yeah, and the most striking point in the report for the ACC is Coastal Carolina. They got promoted, right, into the ACC.
Right.
And the big question posed in the report is, can they realistically challenge the established powers, like Notre Dame, like Clemson, especially in year 3?
That's a massive storyline right there. Can the newcomer actually, disrupt things?
Yeah.
And looking deeper, the talent mentioned, North Carolina has Toby Fortune back at quarterback. That's huge for them.
Oh, definitely a key piece. And Georgia Tech also brings back their senior QB, Noah Roberts. The report notes he played, kind of above his team's general skill level last year.
Interesting. Keeping them competitive, maybe.
Could be. And the incoming talent is significant, too. You've got Connor Hayes, that top 10 recruit, a highly ranked tight end, committed to Notre Dame.
Okay.
Clemson adds Darius Knight, super speedy wide receiver, also a top recruit. And Miami lands Rafael Torres, lockdown corner. These first-year guys could genuinely impact the conference race straight away.
Wow, okay. Lots happening in the ACC. Let's move on to the American Conference then. According to this report, we've got Boston College, East Carolina, Michigan State, Oregon State, Tulsa, USF, Illinois, Iowa State, Temple, Tulane, West Virginia, and Liberty.
Right, and the core narrative here, the look ahead really highlights this, is several of those teams, BC, Michigan State, Oregon State, Illinois, Iowa State, West Virginia, they're all in their second year after being relegated, down from higher conferences.
Okay, so they're trying to bounce back?
Exactly, and the report points to recruiting as their, primary path. The only way to really climb back up over these 5 locked-in seasons.
So it's a conference just full of teams with a really clear mission. Rebuild, get talent. We saw in, I think it was the Draft Insight source, that Michigan State and Illinois had some promising recruits last year. Suggests that build is already happening, right?
It does. It suggests the process is underway. That 5-year lock-in really puts the emphasis squarely on long-term recruiting success here. It's not about quick fixes.
Makes sense. Success in this conference over the next few years is going to be a direct reflection of who can recruit best, basically. Who bridges that gap that got them relegated in the first place.
Absolutely. It's all about talent acquisition for them.
All right, on to the Big Ten. Now, this conference saw pretty big changes after year 1, right? 4 teams moved out. The year 3 teams listed are Central Michigan, Cincinnati, Maryland, Michigan, Ohio State, Penn State, Rutgers, Army, Buffalo, Indiana, Iowa, Minnesota, Nebraska, and Wisconsin.
Well, Michigan is the obvious headliner here, entering year 3 as the defending national champs.
Right, aiming for a repeat.
They are, and a huge reason for that confidence is Burt Bean returning at quarterback. The Draft Insights highlighted him pretty significantly.
Oh yeah, he's a game changer, no doubt.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, you've got Central Michigan and Cincinnati, also in year 2 post-relegation, and the look ahead specifically calls them out. Says they need recruits to even challenge Michigan. That's their path forward, according to this.
It's a tall order, and the talent keeps flowing into the conference, too. Ohio State is getting Jamal Washington, a lightning-fast wide receiver from that year 3 top 10 list. he'll add a serious deep threat.
Okay, watch out for him.
And Michigan isn't standing still either. They're bringing in a top offensive tackle, Liam O'Sullivan. Maryland also had some interesting recruits mentioned last year. So the report really paints this picture of, Michigan at the top.
And everyone else scrambling to catch up via recruiting.
Pretty much. Strategizing how to close that gap.
Okay, next up. The Big 12. Baylor, Houston, Louisiana, Memphis, Oklahoma, Oklahoma State, UCF, Navy, SMU, Southern Miss, TCU, Texas, Texas Tech, and Wyoming. And the look ahead seems to focus specifically on Southern Miss.
Yeah, Southern Miss is an interesting one. They were promoted into the Big 12 also in their second year since the shakeup. The report mentions their QB Russell Watson, the pro success of Pat Pierce. But it zeroes in on a key strategic goal for year 3.
Which is?
They are specifically targeting a top offensive lineman recruit, very specific need identified.
That is specific. Interesting. The look ahead also highlights the classic rivalry here, doesn't it? Texas versus Oklahoma.
Oh, yeah.
And it's not just on the field. The report notes they are set for big recruiting battles against each other off the field, too.
Which just adds another layer, and the returning players kind of fuel that fire. Oklahoma State has senior halfback Malik Crane back looking sharp, apparently. Texas features Reno Hightower at quarterback. The draft insights expect him to make a big impact. So those recruiting duels between Texas and OU, plus those key returners, that's going to shape the top of the Big 12.
Definitely. Okay, CUSA, James Madison, Florida Atlantic, Middle Tennessee State, North Texas, UAB, UTEP, Louisiana Tech, Marshall, Old Dominion, Rice, Western Kentucky, and Jack State. The report gives James Madison a quiet nod.
Yeah, it describes them as quietly strong. And the specific rumor mentioned in the report is they're targeting a speedy wide receiver recruit for year 3.
Another specific target.
Yep. Florida Atlantic and North Texas are also noted as programs looking to compete for top talent within CUSA.
A speedy receiver for James Madison suggests a pretty clear offensive plan, right? Adding that dynamic element.
It does. It indicates a targeted approach. Enhance the scoring, maybe open up the passing game a bit more this season. Be interesting to see if they land him.
Yeah, it will. Okay, the independents. Northwestern, FIU, New Mexico State, and UConn. Small group. Intriguing.
It is. Northwestern is the main sort of context point here, second year after that Big Ten demotion.
Right.
But the report highlights a very specific shared recruiting focus for FIU and UConn.
Shared. What is it?
They are both explicitly chasing a defensive end recruit. Need to boost the pass rush, shore up the run D.
Wow. So you've got one team navigating life post-relegation and two others literally going after the same position in recruiting. The report calls them a wildcard group. And yeah, that makes sense given the different situations and that shared target.
That overlap is interesting, isn't it? It suggests a pretty widespread recognition, at least among those programs, that they need help on the defensive line.
No kidding. On to the MAC. Akron, Ball State, Kent State, Miami of Ohio, Toledo, Western Michigan, Bowling Green, Eastern Michigan, Northern Illinois, Ohio, Purdue, and UMass. The look ahead points out Purdue's situation.
Yes, Purdue. Another team in their second year after dropping from the Big Ten. Their specific strategic goal, noted right here in the report, is improving their secondary. Toledo and Ohio are also highlighted. Teams potentially making noise by identifying, those under-the-radar recruits. Finding hidden gems.
Focusing on the secondary is, again, a very particular need identified. Tells you exactly where Purdue felt they were weakest after year 2.
Definitely. And that idea of finding hidden gems in the MAC, that's a classic theme, right? Programs developing talent may be overlooked elsewhere.
True. Okay, the Mountain West saw a full overhaul, according to the report. Teams are Arizona, Arizona State, Fresno State, Kansas State, UNLV, Utah, Boise State, Colorado State, New Mexico, Utah State, Texas State, and Sam Houston.
Yeah, this conference looks like a totally clean slate for a lot of these programs, and the report highlights a brewing rivalry, Arizona versus Kansas State, specifically notes that both teams are trying to land a dual-threat quarterback recruit.
A head-to-head recruiting battle for a specific player type. Between rivals. That's fascinating stuff.
It really is. And adding another layer to this conference's talent pool, remember that year 3 top 10 recruits list? Tyler McKnight, the national #1 recruit, pro-style QB. He's heading to Arizona State.
Wow. Okay, that immediately puts ASU on the map in this new look Mountain West.
Big time. It'll be really interesting to see how McKnight's arrival impacts that dynamic, especially with Arizona and K-State battling over a different type of QB recruit. And the report also mentions the newcomers, Texas State and Sam Houston, are looking to make an early impact, too.
Lots to watch there. Pac-12 was also redone, the report says. Teams are Air Force, BYU, Cal, Oregon, Stanford, Washington, Washington State, Colorado, Hawaii, Nevada, San Jose State, UCLA, USC, and San Diego State.
Right. And the report points directly to a major rivalry brewing here. Oregon versus UCLA.
Oh, okay.
It specifically calls out UCLA's senior quarterback, Chad Breedlove, says he's the central figure, coming off a stellar season, and scouts apparently see him as potentially the next #1 overall draft pick.
Whoa. Hold on. A potential #1 draft pick leading one side of a major conference rivalry. That makes UCLA a must-watch team, doesn't it?
Absolutely. Must watch. The report also mentions USC and Stanford are building strong defensive fronts. Trying to counter that, maybe.
Could be.
And Hawaii is apparently aiming to surprise people with a mobile quarterback recruit. Suggests a totally different offensive approach over there.
Interesting tactical diversity.
Yeah, and it makes strategic sense too, right? If UCLA has an elite passer like Breedlove, well, prioritizing your D-line, like USC and Stanford are reportedly doing, becomes crucial. Hawaii's target suggests they're taking a different path entirely. Plus, the Year 3 top 10 list adds more fuel. Alejandro Ramirez, that highly ranked running back, is going to USC.
Man, the PAC-12 sounds loaded. Okay, the SEC. They managed to avoid demotions after year 1, kept their traditional core. Alabama, Florida, Georgia, LSU, Missouri, Tennessee, Vanderbilt, Arkansas, Auburn, Kentucky, Mississippi State, South Carolina, Texas A&M, and Ole Miss.
That's right. Stable at the top, mostly. The report does note that Missouri and Vanderbilt are considered on the bubble heading into Year 3.
Yeah.
Need to perform. But the biggest recruiting news highlighted is that both Alabama and Georgia are locked in a fierce battle for a 5-star linebacker.
A 5-star linebacker recruiting war between Bama and Georgia. That screams SEC, doesn't it? Dominance, rivalry, all of it.
It really does. And the talent infusion doesn't stop there. That Year 3 top 10 list confirms Deshaun Brooks, a top linebacker, is headed to Alabama, and Ethan Blackwell, a top defensive end, is going to Georgia.
So they both land elite defenders anyway.
Looks like it. That concentration of elite defensive talent going to those two programs, reinforced by the report's mention of that 5-star LD battle, it just underscores their likely continued strength and the high stakes of their rivalry.
Unbelievable.
And don't forget, LSU is also getting a top 10 recruit, dual threat QB Bryce Johnson. Ole Miss has Kyler Knight returning at quarterback too, according to the Draft Insights. The rich get richer, it seems.
Team that way in the SEC. Okay, finally, the Sun Belt. Appalachian State, Arkansas State, Georgia State, Kansas, ULM, UTSA, Charlotte, Georgia Southern, South Alabama, Troy, Wake Forest, and Kennesaw State.
Right. Kansas is the key team highlighted here. Second year after being relegated from the Big 12.
Yeah, tough spot for them.
And the report specifically states their main recruiting target is their offensive line. Needs improvement there. Wake Forest's emotion into the Sun Belt and Kennesaw State's arrival also add new dynamics to this conference.
Targeting the O-line. Another really specific need outlined in the report. Shows exactly where Kansas feels it needs to improve to compete in their new home. We know from the Draft Insights that Kansas had some recruits last year looking for a fresh start after that drop.
Yeah, this conference really kind of embodies those strategic challenges and maybe opportunities in the post-relegation landscape. You've got teams adjusting, identifying very specific needs, and using recruiting to build for the future within that new 5-year structure.
Phew. Okay, that's the conference-by-conference rundown. Straight from this Rivals Radio look ahead, plus some bits from the other reports. The overall theme seems really clear. Year 3 is all about adaptation, strategic prep. Promoted teams like Coastal Carolina, Southern Miss, they're focused on proving they belong, right? While the relegated squads in the American, the MAC, Sun Belt, the Independents, they are laser focused on using this 5-year window to recruit and build their way back up.
It's a truly dynamic landscape. Every program is navigating its own specific post-shakeup reality. And recruiting, as these reports make clear, is the primary engine for long-term change. It's all detailed right there in the sources you've provided.
And zooming out just a little bit, these sources also give us a glimpse of the bigger picture, don't they? The college league isn't just in a vacuum, it's connected to a pro league system.
That's right. Player development, scouting, the draft, it all creates this pipeline. College standouts moving on, potentially becoming legends in the pro league. That This Is Football Rivals context mentions that.
It adds another layer when you're watching these college players, doesn't it?
Yeah.
You're not just seeing them compete for conference titles, but maybe you're seeing a future pro career starting. And the reports even touch on how how you can create players who end up in this very college league.
Which is pretty cool. It makes you part of the whole ecosystem, you know? Directly connected to the talent pool in the stories we've just been discussing.
Absolutely. So after this deep dive into the Rivals Radio look ahead and the related reports, we've covered the landscape, conference by conference, highlighted the major storylines, the strategic goals for year 3, identified some key players, those recruiting battles, everything that's going to shape the season.
Yeah, and understanding these dynamics pulled straight from the source material, it really gives you a head start, doesn't it, for appreciating the nuances, the narratives of the upcoming season. You know who's climbing, who's solidifying, where the talent battles are really heating up.
It all ties back to this context of year 3. Second year post-relegation, everyone locked in for 5 seasons. So given this massive shakeup and the influx of new talent like those top 10 recruits we talked about, it raises a compelling question for you, the listener, to think about as the season gets closer. Which team are you most curious to see navigate the unique challenges and the opportunities presented in their conference this year 3?
That's a great question to ponder. Lots of possibilities.
Indeed. Well, that's all the time we have for this deep dive into the Rivals Radio Year 3 conference look ahead. We hope you enjoyed unpacking these sources with us.
Yeah, thanks for tuning in.
It's Rivals Radio.